he has done it. Yuji Itadori has unlocked domain expansion.
Woo! Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for.
My MC is dragging Sukuna straight into hell and death, giving him the chapter 236 special treatment. The parallels between Gojo's death and this panel is undeniable. Sukuna can't believe that his nephew, the brat he never respected, is greeting him at the gates of the afterlife. Like, even his reaction to this is the same as Gojo. But how did we get here? Wasn't Angel blasting the King of Curses with Jacob's ladder in chapter 263? Without his reverse curse technique, this should have been a guaranteed kill. Angel was on the verge of fulfilling her only goal in the culling game, which was to take down Sukuna, dubbed the Fallen One, and have redemption for Hana's mistakes earlier, right? No, he's not being the misogyny allegations after all, because guess what? To no one's surprise, Sukuna tanked Jacob's ladder once again. Not too long ago, he was struggling with the force of this technique in Yuta's domain, but that version was a guaranteed hit, leaving no chance to escape. As a result, Sukuna went ahead and did the most insane thing anyone could imagine. By punching the ground to assemble pillars into the sky, he climbed the freaking ladder!
See, now that's some bullshit.
Even though this version of Jacob was at maximum output, the power Angel was putting into it was weaker than earlier. Huh? Okay, you're confused. Well, some of you may immediately point towards plot armor, but in my eyes, this makes perfect sense. Sukuna comments that Angel and Hana are coexisting in one body, as Angel revealed in chapter 199 that incarnated sorcerers destroy their vessel's consciousness, resulting in their death. Something which should not be happening, as it goes against the law of God. There's a 99% chance a person would die if they attempted to bring a person back from incarnation, because it's a fusion of cursed object and living flesh. That means Megami coming back is only a 1% chance. His day got worse. Following this creed meant Angel chose to coexist with Hana instead of killing her, which resulted in a few drawbacks. You know, since the body is the soul and the soul the body, losing an arm impacts their ability to output a powerful Jacob's ladder. As Sukuna puts it, it's a very powerful technique in a mid body. Whose fault is that, I wonder? Hana? Now, yeah, we make jokes out of Hana being useless, but this theme obviously reinforces the whole idea of Sukuna believing in individuality, that love is worthless, and that being selfish to enact true jutsu is the key to strength, as Hana personified that a collective good nature results in weaknesses. But there is one person who's going to prove him wrong about what Gege has set up. Yuji Itadori, following God's creed, is about to take him straight to hell where he belongs. We witness Angel's ladder hitting both Yuji and Todo as well, so the king devised a quick plan. Before he's torn from Megami's body, he will kill her. Sukuna appeared behind her with a punch that would have ended her right there on the spot, but Todo jumped in to completely tank a second Black Flash. After all, this plan was only agreed upon Hana's safety and staying out of the battle in chapter 263. However, Todo survives, crashing into multiple buildings knocked out. Sukuna acknowledges him as a Jujutsu sorcerer to his very core, giving his respect. But the one person he should respect and will bring his demise is right behind him. Sukuna is surprised that he managed to chase him in the Pillar of Light, tanking the entire blast with ease. My man Yuji punches Sukuna and grabs his legs to throw him into a building. His speed is so immense that it outpaces the king before he reacts instinctively to dodge cleave. But something is terribly wrong. Sukuna had finally healed his arms thanks to the Black Flash that restored his RCT output. In chapter 258, we learned that he established a unique relay to disperse the burden of using it to a separate section in his brain. Beforehand, Yuji's soul punches trampled on his desire to bring his arms back, but the sparks of black returned to its master, which allowed him to cast domain expansion. And although Yuji made Sukuna vomit via soul cleave in chapter 263, which should have stopped his RCT yet again, Sukuna entering the awakened state has proven to be fruitful, as the Black Flash on Todo reaped a reward. With his advantage of 4 arms back, he calmly assesses that he doesn't need to do anything risky, as Sukuna absolutely overpowers Yuji in hand-to-hand combat. He claims that all he needs to do is wait for his technique to recover, because Yuji poses no threat to his life. However, Yuji still tries to use Soul Dismantle on him, but this only proves Sukuna's point. It surely is a lethal technique that would be fatal, but it can't hurt him if Yuji can't land it. At this moment, Yuji also had the same thought and realized that there is only one way to guarantee that his attack hits Sukuna, especially against an opponent who hasn't recovered his curse technique yet. Remember, Yuta in Gojo's body made Sukuna have burnout in chapter 263, so he's defenseless against a domain expansion. So ladies and gentlemen, the moment we have all waited for has arrived. Domain expansion. Let's go! Yuji remembers the lesson Gojo taught him in Jogo's domain, and he leverages the knowledge of barriers he learnt from Kusakabe with Soul Exchange to finally unleash his double middle finger domain, telling Sukuna, "Fuck yeah, bruh."
This is exactly what I've been waiting for.
Yuji and Sukuna then arrive at a train station in the same way that Gojo ended up at an airport. It's very likely that they're both representations of hell and heaven respectively, and in the most poetic way, Sukuna is cooked. There is a lot to break down, so let's begin with Yuji without having any injuries, greeting Sukuna in his original appearance. In this uncharted domain, Yuji very cheerfully asks Sukuna to come along with him, which is just hilarious given how much they hate each other. What the heck is happening? The first explanation is that what we're seeing is Yuji's innate domain, which is the only place where we saw 2 Yujis, which were just the 2 souls in one body. Remember, since they are related and Sukuna's lineage is with Yuji, he probably looked like him in the Heian era before he transformed into a deity. Plus, domain expansions are essentially a construct of someone's innate domain that embodies the mind of an individual that they are born with. Higuruma and Takaba have techniques that embody who they are, a lawyer and a comedian. This perfectly links into what Kenjaku and Makito confirmed, that techniques dictate their different views of the world. That's why their debate on souls and body are the opposite. However, Yuji is the embodiment of sincerity. In chapter 61, we are told it's his greatest weapon, and one of the reasons the Sparks of Black chose him, a foil to Sukuna, who is chosen for the opposite reason. Nanami confirmed Yuji feels genuine anger and feels for others, wanting a natural death for all humans, just like his grandpa had. Wasuke left a huge impact on his grandson after all, wishing Yuji would not die alone like a loser himself, instead leaving the world surrounded by loved ones and using his immense strength to save as many people as possible. His final words leave a curse upon Yuji, in which he pursues the goal of a good death, and it's actually a trigger that he remembers multiple times in the story. One plot device that seems valid to me is boarding the train, and with each stop, a significant moment in Sukuna's life will be revealed. All these would be character-defining moments, and these stops will serve as flashbacks to the Heian era, finally unveiling the last puzzle of Sukuna's lore. We will likely get more information about the whole Sukuna-Yuji family connection, and what exactly Yuji's domain expansion is, and how it impacted Sukuna. Domain is a reflection of a person's mind, soul, and nature, as confirmed in the official fan book. For example, Higuruma had a courtroom because of his sense of justice and being a lawyer. Sukuna's is benevolence, as he represents all evil, taking everything in the world for himself. Since Yuji is a curse object soaked in Sukuna's energy, Gojo told us that he will eventually unlock the king's technique for himself. itself. This would allow Yuji to unlock the opposite domain expansion, as his nature is to save people, leading it to healing instead of spreading pain. Essentially, expansion is the sorcerer casting their soul's innate domain and technique out onto the world. In chapter 11, Sukuna claims that it's the heart of a sorcerer. When you connect this to Mahito's claim that could see all souls in all living beings, he states it's too simplistic to call it a heart, as emotions also come from the soul. So with this, we come to understand how Yuji's domain would reflect Buddha's selfless nature. Buddha condemned killing or harming living beings, and since Yuji gives immense value to life and wants everyone to have good deaths, his domain could be the negation of any other domain, cancelling them out completely. Thus, Yuji's domain will transport Sukuna back through his life to see if he would die with regrets. After all, that is a running theme in the story, that sorcerers always will die with them, because these moments shape the soul, which is precisely what Yuji's technique targets, having the most immense knowledge regarding them. Hence, when the domain battle begins, these flashbacks would have inflicted severe damage on Sukuna's soul without him realizing it, kind of like how Takaba wanted to hurt Kenjaku through soul resonance. And since the soul cannot be protected, it will lead to Sukuna's death. Even in chapter 239, we see Kenjaku feeling something he has never had before in 1000 years. His attack was forced not to work and nullified, meaning all his experience was meaningless. Takaba forced his opponents to play by his rules. The events are simulations, but all the damage dealt to him will accumulate steadily. But we already know Yuji's knowledge and ability with soul attacks is much higher. Moreover, the place shown in Yuji's domain or the afterlife is a station in Kitakami City, Iwate Prefecture, which by the way has a long history of demons. A folk dance called Onikenbai or Demon Sword Dance originated over here. What's even more noteworthy is that a train station potentially being Yuji's domain was foreshadowed back in opening 1 itself. Getting cooked, fam.
Wow, Yuji's domain is a train station.
Always has been.
But that's not all. The hand sign for his domain can be interpreted in 2 ways. The first being Chichigarba, literally translated to Earth Womb. It's known for his vow not to achieve Buddhahood until all beings are free from hell and all hells are empty. This reminds us of how Yuji solemnly declared that he would hunt down and kill the likes of Mahito as many times needed in any form, shape or name. Yuji will make sure that he fulfills his vow to destroy him. Even in chapter 220, Yuji admitted that he is ready to eat anything if that means killing Sukuna, which reflects his similarity to the Buddha. Moreover, the Buddha is the savior of the oppressed and the dying, and is often regarded as the guardian of children, patron deity of deceased kids and aborted fetuses in Japanese culture. This really plays into how Yuji's brothers Choso and the others were all aborted fetuses, and by devouring them, he gave them a meaningful existence. Choso himself commented that they will live inside of him. As for the deceased children, we don't need to look too far to see how many people Yuji has lost to curses like Mahito and Sukuna. However, there's more connections to Yuji's hand sign for his domain, as Chichigarba practiced dutiful piety as a mortal, which eventually led to making great vows to save all sentient beings. The whole reason that Yuji became a Jujutsu sorcerer in the first place is his resolve to save people from improper deaths, which was a vow and curse to his grandfather, whom he respected as well and treated as his father figure. This is the opposite of Sukuna. He uses a hand sign named Enma-ten for Malevolent Shrine. So seeing how his ultimate attack is Hell on Earth, Enma-ten being a Deva king of hell makes a lot of sense. rights. But the second interpretation of Yuji's lies in the mudra's name, as it is called Kalasvara Mudra, which translates literally into God of Time. It represents having power over the mind and specifically memories. So as we know, there were two stark instances involving Yuji and memories, Todo and Choso. They both witnessed an event that changed their perspective on Yuji, which might also hint at the fact that Sukuna might be getting memory treatment with new ones being born in his brain as well. The scene of Yuji and Sukuna being together in the domain goes back to the king's statement, believing love is worthless. To find fulfillment in another is to feel love, and feeling love is an intrinsic part of being human, which in turn involves embracing vulnerability. However, that means saying goodbye to being the strongest or an inhuman force of nature, a calamity. By prioritizing strength above all else, Sukuna gave up on his humanity entirely, leaving no trace of it behind. No yearning for connection, no longing for love, and no trace of vulnerability, waiting for someone to arrive to challenge him and die in the end, as he admitted in chapter 238. As Kashimo describes it, this represents absolute perfection in the name of Jujutsu, embodying a state free from weak and pathetic humans with all their emotions and stupid desires. Unlike Sukuna, Gojo was unable to achieve this level of perfection because he could not entirely forsake his humanity and longing for human connection. Sukuna, on the other hand, carries no burdens since he lives solely for himself. Even in the afterlife, Gojo expressed regret that he didn't fully challenge Sukuna, suggesting that if he had, Sukuna might have experienced the same kind of connection that Gojo felt with him, similar to what Yoruzu said. Now, it's not that Sukuna is unaware of what Yoruzu means when she claims to teach him about love. In fact, he understands it and what it entails. Thus, he simply views it as worthless. This perspective makes sense given that he is the absolute pinnacle of strength in the universe and discards all others as insects. Normal human morality or ethics don't apply to a deity like himself. This sets up a fascinating contrast and conclusion of Sukuna with Yuji, who represents unwavering humanity, embracing vulnerability and suffering as essential parts of his bloody journey. His very existence challenges Sukuna, and since they had coexisted in one body, Yuji forced him to confront someone who embodies ideals that he found worthless. Remember, Sukuna acknowledges that Yuji isn't just another person, even admitting his invisible soul. So he can't dismiss Yuji's ideals as inconsequential. He understands that Yuji's ideals are genuine, and that frustrates him that he could have been living his life wrong the entire time, and in chapter 248 he even ponders why he felt disappointed killing Higuruma. So while Sukuna can accept the strength of figures like Gojo, Kashimo or Jogo because he sees their prowess in Jujutsu as something he himself possesses, the idea of holding onto an ideal is beyond comprehension. It shouldn't matter, yet it enables Yuji, his nephew, to stand against him? In short, Yuji grasps Sukuna's nature as a curse that must be eliminated, and Sukuna understands Yuji's role as a means to an end. This mutual understanding forms a type of connection, a form of love. The person that will teach Sukuna about it is Yuji Itadori. Now, although Sukuna claims he has never sought fulfillment from others, that doesn't mean his existence fulfills him. On the contrary, his habit of devouring humans and his hedonistic philosophy reveals an emptiness and a constant craving for new experiences. He even admits this himself in chapter 238. Ryu and Kashimo also represented a desire for a final, satisfying conclusion, and they found contentment in their depths. Similarly, Sukuna's sense of self is defined by his self-belief that he doesn't need anyone to be fulfilled. However, if he seeks seeks to validate this by crushing Yuji's ideal, it would deviate from his true self, much like Toji against Gojo, leading to his eventual defeat. And since the station they are on is Kitakame, which means going north by the way, it fits well with Nanami's statement that if you'd like to become someone new, go north. Thus, Yuji will finally be the one to teach Sukuna about love by defeating him. Now to enjoy more peak fiction, watch this video about Yuji facing all the disaster curses at the same time. Would he defeat them?